Good morning. Good morning. It is the Monday, the 6th of April, and I'm out for an early morning run around the hometown I grew up in. But I haven't lived here in nearly 40 years. So today, we're going to go out for a run around the hometown. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my history and the history of Alton. So come with me. It's a nice sunny morning. It's a bit chilly. There's a frost, but it's going to be fun. The plan is to do a bit of a run walk route around Alton. Probably a little bit further than I'm used to, but I'll break it up so it's not all continuous running. And the plan is to stop at a few of the sites that kind of make this town. And the first one that I'm heading to right now is my high school. And this is where I was from the age of 11 to 16. Alright, so here we go. Stop number 1. Eggers School. And the first thing, as everybody says, it's a lot smaller than I remember. And it's like the buildings haven't changed, but some of the landscaping has. I mean, all the fancy gate and stuff, that wasn't there. But I used to cycle to school. It would be about, mile, just over a mile from the house. I used to cycle to school every morning and back. You see where that concrete slab is there, just by those trees? That's where the bike sheds used to be. And this gate here was the bike or car exit. So we would come out of the gate here, having picked up our bike in the evening, and come out through the gate, up this little hill, turn right, come down the main road down behind these trees, and then back down that way home. One of the things that I always remember is that it was wind assisted coming in the mornings, and it was always wind against going home in the evenings. And that's where my love of cycling really came from. It was just cycling to school every day. Right, let's start running again. But this here on the right is Anstey Park. And this is where my failed attempts at being a rugby player and a football player all took place as a kid. Spent a lot of time here, but didn't get a lot of success. Saturday morning training was just in front of these trees here. And apart from some of the paths around the edges, I think the goalposts are all in exactly the same place. As inspired by my friend, always be a kid. Anyway, let's give this a little bit of fun, shall we? never grow up. Here we go. School number 2. Woody Infants. Now, there are 2 schools here, juniors and seniors. And I was here from the age of about 5 till 11. Still basically hasn't changed much. The buildings are the same. I remember those classrooms, in and out. It's more, and then you sort of come from that first school, and when you turn 7, you move up to this school for 4 years. So we come running out of the classes here, up to this gate, out through this gate, and down that path, and around the field, and then up the hill, and the first to get to the lollipop lady to cross the main road from the school was deemed the winner. Now, I think we were only racing ourselves. Let's head off and recreate some of that run from when I was 9. And then it would finish with this big, well, it was big back then, big hill down to the crossing. And yes, this would be it. We'd won. Me and Alex, we were first. We were here. The lollipop lady would see us to take me across the road. Hardly seems like it's that dangerous now. And then I'd go up the hill, over some steps there on the left, and head home. But today, we're going to go down the hill and head to another part of Alton. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take another run in a minute. We're going to change. That's pretty much my history, is schools around here and the fields where I played lots of sport. But what I'm going to do now is go back into a little bit more of the history that Alton. It's an old town, brewing town. Traditionally, it was a country town based on brewing, hops in the fields all around, and a brewing factories that made the beer. And hence there used to be lots and lots of pubs in the town. Not so many now, not so full now. But anyway, there's a long history here. The plan is to go down to the church and tell you about the civil war that happened here in Alton. So, this is St Lawrence Church in Alton. But it is kind of significant to the history of the town. And somewhere in this churchyard is the grave also of somebody I will tell you about in the next part of the vlog. But we'll hold on that for the moment. In the summer of 1643, these quiet streets of Alton were anything but peaceful. England was in the grip of the English Civil War, a bitter struggle that split towns, families and loyalties down the middle. Royalist forces had taken position here, using the town as a stronghold. But in December of that year, parliamentarian troops advanced, determined to take it back. What followed was fast, violent and unforgiving. Fighting tore through these streets, homes became battlegrounds, and the town itself was scarred in the crossfire. Roundheads was the name given to the supporters of Parliament during the English Civil War. The name started as a bit of mockery. Many parliamentarian soldiers wore their hair cut short, practical and no-nonsense, a stark contrast to the long flowing styles of the Royalists, who were often called Cavaliers, so Roundheads became a way of poking fun at their plain appearance. Over time, Roundheads came to represent more than just a haircut. It meant support for Parliament over the King, a push against absolute monarchy, and often a stricter, more disciplined way of life. The Royalists were called Cavaliers. This started as a label for the King's supporters during the English Civil War, but its roots go a bit deeper and are a bit more continental. The word comes from the French chevalier, meaning horseman or knight. It drifted into English as cavalier, carrying that image of a mounted gentleman, someone aristocratic, stylish, and tied to the traditions of chivalry. That fit the Royalist side quite neatly, as they tended to be made up of nobles and those loyal to Charles I. But like Roundhead, the name stuck, and then it settled into identity. So what began as an insult became a badge worn right in the middle of the Civil War. At the heart of it all, here in Alton, stood St Lawrence Church. Royalist soldiers made their final stand inside the church, turning a place of worship into a fortress. The parliamentarian forces surrounded it, and when the fighting reached its peak, they showed little mercy. The church was stormed, and those inside were cut down where they stood. Even today, if you step inside St Lawrence's Church, you can still see the marks of that moment. Musket holes pepper the stone walls, small scars frozen in time, each one a silent witness to the chaos that once filled this space. It's hard to imagine now, the calm, the stillness, the sense of history resting quietly in the air. But back then, this wasn't just a church. It was the final chapter of a battle, and Alton, for a brief moment in history, was a front line. Now, somewhere around here, there are supposedly the bullet holes still in the wall from... There we go. Can you see that? That there, and that there. They're bullet holes from when the battle was raging. But it is quite beautiful. And I'm really glad I'm doing this video, because whilst it's bringing back lots of memories, it's actually creating new ones. And I'm seeing things that I used to walk past day after day and appreciate them now for what they are or what they were. There we go, 8 bells for 8 AM. The sunrise coming up in the background and the church in the churchyard. And like I said, somewhere in this church, in the churchyard, is the grave of a sweet lady, a young girl, Fanny Adams, who was, I think, about 5 or 6 years old. when she was murdered. So this is Townhouse Lane, and this is where Fanny Adams lived, in one of these cottages around here. The Civil War wasn't the last time something dark happened here, not even close. Flood Meadows is a quiet corner of Alton now, but in 1867 this small market town became the centre of a crime so shocking it echoed across all of Victorian England. Fanny Adams was just 8 years old, the daughter of a local bricklayer. She was known as a lively, bright child who spent her summer days playing in the fields and lanes around the town. On the afternoon of August the 24th, she went out with her sister and a friend to play, but never came home. A local solicitor's clerk named Frederick Baker had been seen lingering nearby, friendly, well-spoken, and outwardly respectable, the kind of man no one would suspect. But behind that facade was something far darker. Later that day, Fanny disappeared. A search began almost immediately. What followed was grim. Her remains were discovered in a nearby hop garden, hidden amongst the rows. The brutality of the crime horrified the town and drew national attention. Newspapers seized on the story, turning it into one of the most infamous murders of the era. After being lured away by Frederick Baker, Fanny was murdered in a violent attack. Her body was later found in the nearby hop garden where it had been dismembered. The sheer brutality, what was done to her, stunned the community in Alton and turned the case into one of the most disturbing crimes of its time. Baker was quickly arrested. Witnesses placed him with Fanny, and evidence tied him directly to the scene. During his trial, he showed little remorse. The case was swift, and the verdict inevitable. On Christmas Eve, 1867, Frederick Baker was executed at Winchester Prison. Public hangings were coming to an end in Britain, but this was one of the last carried out behind prison walls, away from the crowds that once gathered for such grim spectacles. Today, Alton has long since returned to peace, but beneath the calm streets and quiet fields, this story lingers, a reminder that even the smallest places can carry the heaviest shadows. And here we are at the Butts. And this is where Fanny Adams' dad was playing cricket when she was murdered. And when she went missing officially, that run that I've just done from Flood Meadows down to here was pretty much the place that her mum had run to come and tell her husband that their daughter was missing. So that's the history of Alton, Sweet Fanny Adams, Sweet FA. A lot of people know it as Sweet All, but it's not where it came from originally. That's like its second version. Originally, it came from the murder of this girl and went into folklore due to the sailors, referring to their tin of bully beef as not having any beef in it, but being used of chopped up Sweet Fanny Adams, Sweet FA. And that's the history of the phrase and part of the history of Alton. That's my little tour of Alton. And as the sun rises in the background of me at the Alton House Hotel, I'm going to say Slawn. And that's video 3 of my little trip to Alton, with all of the spring daffodils out and about. And yeah, So go look for your best life, enjoy what you do, just try and do a little bit more. The more you do, the more you want to do. It's addictive. But anyway, keep going, do the best you can, and enjoy. We'll see how it goes. Sloan, see you next time. The next video, I'll be leaving the hotel early to head back up into Wales and Snowdonia to climb Penrhyn Olwen. And that's a big one. That's going to take me 4 hours to get up and down. And that'll be the highest altitude I've ever been to. And it's going to be a beautiful sunny day. And I think the views are going to be just spectacular. So come join me in the next vlog. For me, that's in 2 days' time. For you, probably be about a week away. See you soon. Bye bye.